I never believed in the devil until I met him at a coffee shop on a random Tuesday. He wasn't at a crossroads at midnight. There were no candles, no chants. He was just sitting there at a corner table reading the Financial Times. He was wearing a perfectly ordinary navy suit that looked like it was about to burst because of his muscles. The only thing that gave him away was how he knew my name when I'd never seen him before in my life. Marcus Chen, he said, looking up from his paper as I walked past his table. Rough couple of months, haven't they been? He grinned. I stopped dead. Do I know you? I asked, though something in my gut already knew the answer would complicate everything. He smiled, and his teeth were perfectly white. Too white. Please sit. I have a proposition that might interest you, he said, charmingly gesturing in front of him. I should have walked away. Every rational part of my brain screamed at me to keep moving, get my overpriced latte, and pretend this conversation never happened. Instead, I sat down, as if I didn't even have a say in it. I'm in the business solving problems, he said, folding his newspaper with precise creases. And you, Marcus, have quite a few problems? He was not wrong at all. The foreclosure notice was burning a hole in my jacket pocket, and my credit cards had all been maxed out for weeks. Sarah had left me 3 months ago, taking our daughter Emma with her. My startup had collapsed spectacularly, leaving me with nothing but debt and a profound sense of failure. Who are you? I asked. Names have power, he said. Let's just say I'm someone who can help. Your house, you're about to lose it. Your daughter barely speaks to you. Your ex-wife thinks you're a failure. Your credit is destroyed. Your business partners won't return your calls. He leaned back in his chair. Am I getting warm? The accuracy of his assessment hit me like a physical blow. How do I trailed? He chuckled. Know all this, I make it my business to know. The question is, how badly do you want to fix that? He stared at him. He was probably in his 40s with salt and pepper hair, kind eyes, and arms at the size of my head. He looked like someone's accountant, not whatever he was. What are you suggesting, a transaction? A very reasonable one, actually. You have something I want, and I have something you need. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a leather portfolio. I'm prepared to offer you $1 million, cash, untraceable. Enough to save your house, win back your family, start over. He said. I couldn't resist the urge to sigh at his annoying corporate tone. In exchange for what his smile widened. Just a small piece of your soul. Nothing dramatic, maybe 10%? You'll hardly notice it's gone. I laughed. I actually laughed out loud. You're insane, am I? He opened the portfolio and showed me photographs. Pictures of my house, my daughter's school, Sarah's apartment. Marcus, in 3 days, the bank will repossess your home. In 2 weeks, your daughter will start at a new school because Sarah can't afford the private one anymore. In a month, you'll be sleeping in your car. He closed the portfolio. I'm offering you a way out. You're talking about selling my soul to the devil. He smiled softly. I'm talking about a limited partnership arrangement. Think of it as spiritual equity financing. You retain majority ownership of your soul, 90%. I get a small stake in exchange for solving your immediate liquidity crisis. The business terminology made it sound almost reasonable. Almost. This is crazy. I said, but I didn't get up. Crazy would be letting your pride destroy your family. Crazy would be sleeping in your car while your daughter thinks her father is a loser who couldn't provide for her. He leaned forward. Marcus, I'm not asking for your firstborn or eternal damnation. 10%. That's all, letting aside the fact that I was talking to the devil right now. I thought about Emma. About the look in her eyes the last time I'd seen her when I couldn't afford to take her to the movies. About Sarah's voice when she called me pathetic. What exactly would happen to that 10%? Nothing dramatic. You might find yourself slightly more pragmatic in your business dealings. A little less concerned with certain moral complexities, if you know what I mean. He chuckled. Small changes. Barely noticeable. I sat there for what felt like hours, though it was probably only minutes. Finally, I asked, how would this work? He reached into his portfolio again and pulled out a contract. It looked like any other legal document, dense text, whereas clauses, signatures, lines. At the bottom it specified 10% of Party A's immortal soul in exchange for the sum of $1 million. United States dollars, $1 million. Asterisk, just sign here, he said, producing an elegant Carlton. pen seemingly out of nowhere. An initial here acknowledging you understand the terms. My hand was shaking as I took the pen. This was insane. This was impossible. But the foreclosure notice in my pocket felt very real, and so did the image of Emma's disappointed face. I signed. The moment the pen left the paper, I felt different. Not dramatically different, but like I just had a very strong cup of coffee. More alert, more focused. The man across from me smiled, and the contract disappeared into his portfolio. Pleasure doing business with you, Marcus. He stood up and extended his hand. When I shook it, his skin was surprisingly warm. The money will be in your account by tomorrow morning. That's it. He paused at the door. You might find that other opportunities present themselves soon. When they do, you'll know how to reach me. He left, and I sat there staring at my coffee, wondering if I'd just had the most vivid hallucination of my life. The money was there the next morning. $1 million, just like he promised Dot. Within 6 months, everything had changed. I'd saved. The house started a new company, and Sarah was actually taking my calls again. Emma was back in her good school, and I could afford the things that made her smile. The 10% I'd given up seemed like the bargain of the century. Dot. The changes were subtle, just like he'd said. I found myself cutting corners in ways that would have bothered me before. When a competitor's company was struggling, I bought them out for a fraction of their worth, knowing they were desperate. When a regulatory issue threatened my new business, I made certain donations to certain local politicians that cleared the way. Nothing illegal, exactly. But nothing I would have done before, either. I told myself it was just good business. Pragmatism. The world was harsh, and these were the kinds of decisions successful people made. The second meeting happened at a restaurant downtown. I was celebrating landing a major contract when he slid into the booth across from me, looking exactly the same as he had 8 months earlier. Congratulations. On the Henderson deal, he said. Quite a coup. Thanks. I tried to sound casual, but seeing him again made my stomach clench. What brings you here? A complication, I'm afraid. You see that Henderson contract, your main competitor was about to land it. Had the inside track, actually. Better bid, better relationship with the client. I frowned. But I won it fair and square. You won it because certain information found its certain people and certain pressure was applied in certain quarters. Information and pressure that, shall we say, originated from my resources. What are you saying? Got my 10%. Stake in your soul has been working quite hard on your behalf. Harder than we originally contracted for. He smiled that two-white smile. I'm going to need to renegotiate our arrangement. Now. The word came out more forcefully than I'd intended. We had a deal, we did, and that deal has been exceeded. You see, Marcus, your success over the past few months hasn't been entirely your own doing. My investment has been quite active. He pulled out another contract. I'm afraid I'm going to need another 15%. 15%. That would put you at 25% total. Still a minority stake, he pointed out reasonably. And frankly quite fair given the value I've added to your life. He grinned, then he leaned back. Of course, if you prefer, I could simply withdraw my support. See how well you'd do without it. The threat was implicit but clear. Everything I'd rebuilt could disappear. What happens if I say no? The Henderson contract would fall through for starters. Seems there might be some irregularities in the bidding process that could come to light. Your financing for the new company might encounter some unexpected obstacles. Sarah might start wondering where all this sudden success came from. He leaned back. I'd hate to see you lose everything again. I stared at the contract. Another 15% seemed like a lot, but I'd still retain majority control. And losing everything now would be worse than losing it before I had so much more to lose. I signed. This time the change was more noticeable. I found myself making decisions that would have horrified the man I'd been 2 years ago. When a small supplier couldn't deliver on time, I destroyed their business instead of just finding someone else. When an employee threatened to quit, I made sure she was blacklisted throughout the industry. I didn't even look at the eyes of beggars on the streets. These actions felt not just reasonable, but necessary, even satisfying. I was changing. Sarah moved back in with me after a year. Emma called me daddy again. My business was thriving. In the end, the 25% of my soul I'd given up, seemed like a small price for everything I'd gained. The third meeting was at my office. He didn't make an appointment. I just looked up one day, and he was sitting in the chair across from my desk. We need to talk, he said. By now I knew the routine. Some new crisis that required his intervention, some justification for taking another piece of my soul. I was ready for him. What's the problem this time? Your wife, he said simply. Sarah. What about her? She's been asking questions. About your sudden turnaround. About some of your business practices. She's suspicious. Suspicious of what she's hired a private investigator, Marcus. A very good one. He's been digging into your finances, your business dealings, your associates. Some of what he's finding is problematic. I felt cold. What kind of problematic? The kind that leads to federal investigations. The kind that leads to prison time. He leaned forward. The kind that leads to your daughter visiting you through bulletproof glass. His smile never seemed wider at that time. Your lying gut. He pulled out a manila folder and slid it across the desk. Inside were photographs, documents, bank records. All the evidence of things I'd done, deals I'd made, corners I'd cut. Individually, they might have been explicable. Together, they painted a picture of systematic corruption. This is all circumstantial, I said, but my voice was weak, perhaps, but it's enough to raise questions. Enough to start an investigation that would unravel everything. Your business, your marriage, your relationship with Emma, everything. My hand shook. I was feeling fear. Proper fear for the first time in a long time. What do you want? I shook. 30% more, he said. That would give me 55% total, a controlling interest. In exchange, all of this evidence disappears. The private investigator has an accident. Sarah's suspicions fade. Your life continues exactly as it is. 50-5%. That's more than half. It is. But consider the alternative. I looked at the photographs again. At the evidence of what I'd become. What we'd become, I corrected myself. Because none of this had happened in a vacuum. Every decision had seemed reasonable at the time, necessary even. If you have controlling interest, what does that mean from you? Don't worry, nothing will change. I will let you still have your free will. But you'll naturally find yourself more aligned with my interests. More efficient in your decision making. Less burdened by concerns that might interfere with success. I thought about Emma, about Sarah, about everything I'd built, I signed. The change this time was immediate and profound. It was like someone had adjusted the contrast on my moral vision. Things that had once seemed questionable now seemed obviously correct. Ethical considerations that had once nagged at me simply weren't there anymore. Good or bad didn't seem to cross my mind anymore. They were just success. I fired a dozen employees without cause because they were expensive. I foreclosed on 3 small businesses that owed me money, even though I knew it would destroy the families behind them. I manipulated stock prices and destroyed competitors with a systematic ruthlessness. That was both alien to who I'd once been and utterly natural to who I was becoming. Sarah stopped asking questions. The private investigator's report was mysteriously lost. My business empire grew, but I was starting to understand that I wasn't driving anymore. I was just along for the ride. The 4th meeting was at Emma's school. I was watching her soccer game when he sat down next to me on the bleachers. She's quite talented, he said, nodding toward my daughter. Don't, I said immediately. I grew cold. Don't even think about bringing her into this. Relax, Marcus. I'm not here about Emma. I'm here about you. He'd pat my back. What now you're dying? He said with a frown that didn't quite reach his jawline. The words hit me like a blow. What pancreatic cancer? Very aggressive? You probably have 6 months, maybe less. He said it as casually as he might comment on the weather. Of course, medicine has its limitations. But I don't. I stared at him, then at Emma running across the field. You're lying. He grabbed my waist and pulled me closer to him. The symptoms will start next week. You'll think it's just stress at first. By the time you see a doctor, it'll be too late for conventional treatment. He turned to face me, but not too late for unconventional treatment. Let me guess you want more of my soul. 35% more. That would give me 90% total. In exchange, the cancer disappears. You live a long, healthy life. You get to watch Emma graduate, get married, have children of your own. I guarantee you, 90%, I repeated. That leaves me with 10% dot still enough to maintain your essential self. Your memories, your love for your family, your core personality. You'll just be more focused, more efficient, less conflicted dot, and if I say no, you die. Slowly and painfully, Emma watches her father waste away. Sarah becomes a widow. Your business empire crumbles without your leadership. Everyone that depends on you comes crumbling down. On the field, Emma scored a goal. She looked over at me and waved her face bright with joy. I waved back my hand, feeling like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Why, I asked. Why are you doing this, Ian? Not doing anything, Marcus. I'm simply offering solutions to your life full of problems. You're the one making the choices. But you're engineering the problems. I didn't give you cancer, Marcus. I didn't make you eat those donuts. I'm merely offering to cure it. I didn't make your wife suspicious. Your own actions did that. I offered to fix it. Every step of the way you've had choices. You've simply chosen the path that led you here. He was right, and that was the most horrifying part. Every decision had been mine. Every signature on every contract had been voluntary. I had sold myself piece by piece, but watching Emma celebrate with her teammates, I knew I couldn't face dying. Couldn't face leaving her? I signed the contract. This time the change was like stepping into a different person's skin. The last vestiges of my old moral framework simply vanished. I felt lighter, more focused, more certain of my purpose. The world became a clearer place divided neatly, between things that served my interests and things that didn't. I fired my brother from the company. The next day, because he was questioning my methods, I evicted a dozen families from properties I owned because they were behind on rent. I destroyed a charity that was interfering with one of my developments by exposing its director's personal secrets. The bonuses decreased as with every employee's salary. None of it bothered me. It all felt perfectly reasonable. Sarah seemed happier too. She stopped asking uncomfortable questions and started enjoying the life my success had provided. Emma thrived in her expensive school, surrounded by luxury I could easily afford. I was successful, healthy, and wealthy beyond my wildest dreams. I was also barely human. I was merely a brain piloting a meat suit. Asterisk. The final meeting was inevitable. I'd been expecting it for months when he appeared in my home office on a quiet Sunday evening. Emma was upstairs doing homework. Sarah was reading in the living room. Everything was perfect. Got hello, Marcus. I didn't respond this time. I'm here with good news. You've been such an exemplary partner that I'm prepared to offer you the deal of a lifetime. Now I looked up. Deal total bailout. I purchase your remaining 10% and in exchange, I guarantee that Emma and Sarah will want for nothing for the rest of their lives. Emma will get into any college she wants. Sarah will be happy and prosperous. They'll both live long, successful lives. And May will be exactly who you've been becoming. Successful, powerful, effective. You just won't be you anymore. I leaned back in my chair. It was strange how calm I felt about this moment I'd been dreading. What happens to my soul when you own 100% of it? It becomes mine completely. Your body continues to function, your mind continues to work, but the essential spark that made you Marcus Chen transfers to me. You become in effect an extension of my will. I become you. A part of me, yes. I thought about the man. I'd been 3 years ago, desperate, failing, losing everything. That person seemed like a stranger, now someone weak and foolish who'd let silly moral constraints interfere with success. But that person had also been the one who'd loved Emma with pure, uncomplicated joy. Who'd loved Sarah without calculation. Who'd felt genuine remorse when he hurt people. What guarantee do I have that you'll keep your word about Emma and Sarah none? But what choice do you have? He was right, of course. He'd been right every step of the way. I could refuse, but then what I'd still be 90% is still bound to his will in all but the smallest matters. And Emma and Sarah would face whatever future awaited them without his protection. If I signed this, will I still remember who I was? Yes. Those memories are quite valuable. They help inform decision-making, provide emotional context for manipulating others. You'll remember Marcus Chin very clearly. You just won't be him anymore. I picked up the pen. It felt familiar in my hand now, like an old tool I'd grown comfortable using. One last question, I said. What's your name? Your real name for the first time in our relationship? He looked genuinely pleased by something I'd asked. For some reason, his face looked oddly familiar now. You can call me Marcus, he said. That's how I'm going to be. I signed the contract. The change was instantaneous and total. I felt my sense of self, that essential, indefinable thing that had made me drain away like water from a broken cup. What remained was crystal clear purpose, focus, and complete understanding of my role in a larger design. I am no longer Marcus Chun. I am something. That wears Marcus Chun's face and speaks with Marcus Chun's voice and carries Marcus Chun's memories. Or Marcus Chun's business empire and live in Marcus Chun's house and kiss Marcus Chun's wife. Good night. Emma still calls me Daddy. Sarah still loves the man she thinks I am. They're both happy, prosperous, and protected just as promised. And sometimes late at night when they're both asleep, I remember what it felt like to be the man who loved them. I remember his hopes, his fears, his genuine desire to be good. I remember his weakness, his desperation, and his fatal inability to understand that every deal with me was exactly as straightforward as it seems. Devil told me his name after all. And now when desperate people find themselves at coffee shops and restaurants and school bleachers having conversations with a man in a well-tailored suit who knows their problems and has solutions. To offer their talking to whatever left of Marcus. He offers them exactly what I offered him: reasonable terms, logical arguments, and the gradual purchase of their souls in convenient installments. Just like me, he's always completely honest about the transactions. Just like me, he never lies about the consequences. And just like me, he finds that desperate. People will sell their souls piece by piece, convincing themselves each time that they're making a reasonable business decision right up until the moment there's nothing left to sell. It's exactly as straightforward as it seems. They just don't want to see it.